Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. I got a lot of video reviews lined up. I just hope that I have the time to be able to do all the ones I want to do and then put them out there. So let's start with this. This is the EFX Darksaber Signature Edition from, again, the company EFX. And this is from the Mandalorian. A couple of things as like intro, I guess. I've always wondered how come when I record in 4K 60, sometimes like YouTube doesn't upload it in 4K 60. Occasionally the highest it goes is like 720p or 1080p. And I think I figured it out and I'm going to test it with this. It's because a lot of times when I do these video recordings, I do close-ups and stuff, and because of the iPhone 15's processing issues with the camera, unlike my older iPhones, it just isn't able to focus on macro. After all this time, they still haven't fixed that, which is sort of a shame. And so what happens is I tend to change the zoom to try to get better detail. And I think when it does that, it kind of screws up the 4K 60 and changes it to other resolution. And then YouTube just uploads the video at the weakest resolution. And I realized that certain videos where I don't do that, it stays 4K 60 throughout. So I'm going to test that by simply not changing the zoom and not changing the resolution. Hopefully it will be 4K 60 the entire time. Of course, if I do that, I am going to have to sacrifice a little bit on the macro views, because if I go too close, it'll automatically blur, and there's no way to get that to go away, I think, with the 4K lenses. I'm not exactly a guru when it comes to this sort of stuff, but that's my best guess what's happening. Okay, so back to the subject at hand. EFX, a company with a lot of baggage that I've explained when I've reviewed some of their other products. To date, my favorite EFX hilt is still the Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi reveal lightsaber. I think that's absolutely amazing, and I think I had it, I even forget myself, but I think I had it top 10 or something, in my top 10 of best lightsaber prop replicas ever, right? And so EFX is now finally getting their house in order. They're actually delivering product in a timely fashion. They're communicating with their customers very well. So they're kind of rebuilding that trust little by little, brick by brick, from essentially their previous reputation as essentially licensed scammers who are just taking your deposit money and never giving you product for years and years. And so in line with that, they've delivered a couple of items. Some of them like the Bo-Katan helmet, I'm not interested in. I don't collect buckets. But on the lightsaber world, they've definitely begun to deliver. And so it's been pretty exciting. The last couple of weeks, both the Ahsoka Tano limited edition dual lightsabers and now the Darksaber has been released, and the lead time from the announcement of the pre-order of the Darksaber to its release is actually pretty shockingly short. At the time, I thought they had delayed the pre-order for the Darksaber because they wanted to concentrate on wrapping up some of their other products, but there must be some sort of mistake or issue because that Darksaber was ready to go very quickly, and it was just a very, very fast turnaround time between pre-order and actual delivery of product into our hands, which is, again, something that I never thought I would ever say about EFX. But, here we go. I think there's a lot of things to say about this hilt, and a lot to say on multiple levels. So in terms of the actual, I guess, business side of things, I think it's very interesting that of the 100 signature edition Darksabers that were made available, all 100 were sold out very, very quickly, kind of like almost, it's like scarily quickly. It was gone in, I heard, like minutes, maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes. So 100 disappeared in a matter of minutes. And what that shows me is that there's still a pretty big appetite for signature edition collectibles, whether it be helmets or lightsabers. It's there, and I mean, no affront to Ms. Sackoff, but Katie Sackoff is not what we would consider like a A-list movie star, right? She's well known in the Star Wars universe for voicing Bo-Katan Kryze, and playing her, of course, in The Mandalorian. But in general, she's not considered like A-list, or I don't even know if she's considered B-list really. And so this is a signature that's not exactly on the same level as, say, Ewan McGregor or Hayden Christensen, but yet the fact that it's a signature plaque, and the fact that it was so limited to 100, drove sales. In comparison, the non-signature version of this Darksaber is still considered pretty darn limited. They limited it to 500, and right now it's easily available on the EFX website. It's been available, I think, for a month at least. Bear in mind that a limitation of 500 in the master replicas days would be considered extraordinarily high value, highly collectible. There's only a handful of master replicas, lightsabers, where the limitation was so low. Off the top of my head, I can think of the Vader Signature Edition from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, with rumors that the full 500 maybe were not even made for Return of the Jedi. The Obi-Wan Kenobi as first built only had 500, for instance. So those are considered very, very rare, and the secondary prices, secondary market prices reflect that. So it's fascinating that for a Darksaber, for the Darksaber, and for other EFX releases like the Dark Ray lightsaber, the Ahsoka Tano dual set, all set at only 500, and yet readily available sometimes for months afterward. If you correlate the demand with the number, a limited edition of 100 selling out in, let's just say, 5 to 10 minutes, you expect 500 to sell out, in a day, at most a week, but that has not been the case. And so what that shows is that signature editions are still very popular. They still drive sales. There's still a really big demand and appetite for them. And then the forced rarity of signature editions also plays a role. I guess the good old days when Mark Hamill would just sit there and sign like 1,500 plaques, like, I guess those days are dead. They're gone. Actors and actresses aren't doing that, period. I don't even know if there's enough money to pay them to do that. But for, like, say, even Katie Sackoff, I guess, in terms of her rate, perhaps EFX could only afford for her to sign 100 of these, and that's it. And so because of that, it does also put this limitation. Only 100 can be made available, and that also drove sales. So moving forward, I don't know how long EFX is going to keep the Lucasfilm license. I don't know what more they're going to do with it. Right now, they're, I think, just wisely sticking with smaller projects. They're not busting out with some stupid superstar destroyer that's going to fill up your living room or anything crazy like they used to do. They're just saying, hey, look, we're going to announce some cool products. They're going to be small. They're going to be manageable. We're going to have very high confidence that we're going to be able to deliver on these. We're going to do helmets. We're going to do, prop replicas, small ones. We're going to do like coins or dice or whatever. We're going to do, a helmet. So they're starting small, small and reasonable. So I don't know how long, again, they're going to keep onto the license. But if there's any lesson to be taken from the sale of this signature edition Darksaber, I would say that the lesson is signature, 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 and do everything you can to get the actress or actor or whatever to get involved and get that signature. It makes a big difference from a business model perspective. It also shows that lightsabers are still popular. People still like them. They still like to collect them. It's still like a tangible piece of the movie that you can hold in your hand. And of course, it is iconic and specific to Star Wars. And I say all of this selfishly because I do hope that at some point they would revisit the sequel trilogy, which, by the way, I really dislike. I hate the sequel trilogy, actually. But I can separate my feelings about the movie from the props and the replicas that can be made from them. And so I'm still hoping that eventually we get like a Kylo Ren, a Rey, lightsaber, and then of course a Leia one, and maybe the one that they showed at the very end. There's a couple of nice hilts, and prop shop again doesn't really count. Those guys went out of business like approximately 83 seconds after they actually announced these things, and so very few people can ever get their hands on one. And I think it would be a wonderful opportunity for EFX to sort of step up and do that. I don't know whether their licensing allows them to, but I certainly think that that's way more compelling than, say, I don't know, like a Sabine or Ezra Bridger lightsaber from Ahsoka. I don't think it has quite the same effect or cachet. That's my feeling on it. So anyways, business model discussion done. I'm just really happy that EFX is trying to, step up their game and again, try to fill that incredible void that Master Replicas left behind. So in terms of the Darksaber itself, the lore behind it is that this is the ancestral sword of the Vizslas, the Vizslas. I forget exactly which one was it. Like, I think was it Tar Vizsla? Was it Tar Vizsla or Pre Vizsla? I think it was Tar Vizsla. But one of the Vizslas was like the first Mandalorian Jedi, and so when he crafted his own lightsaber, he created a very unique, specific one where instead of it being like the normal light, it emitted this dark energy, or the dark version of it, and thus they named it the Darksaber. And since then, it's become sort of like this ancestral weapon of the Mandalorians. And traditionally, the ruler of Mandalore wields the Darksaber, and it can only change ownership if it's won in a fair fight. That's kind of like the culture of the Mandalorians. And so this version, of course, is signed by Katie Sackoff, who plays the role of Bo-Katan Kryze, who has held the lightsaber the longest, and pretty much I think I at least associate the Darksaber the most with her character. And this is the first time that we've ever had like a completely accurate, high quality version of the Darksaber licensed in our hands. So it's kind of a big deal. Of course, there are multiple custom versions. There are multiple ones from NeoPixel with the blade attached. But if we're talking prop replica by a respected licensed company like EFX, this is the first time we have that. And how cool is that we first originally saw the Darksaber in Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels, and then we actually saw it in the flesh in The Mandalorian, which is already like really, really awesome, right? Who can forget the Darksaber, in Moff Gideon's hand as he cut his way out, right? I remember that was from the end of, I think, The Mandalorian season 1, and how badass was that? And now to be able to own that replica and to touch it, to feel this, to feel and examine it, is really a wonderful opportunity. So in any case, so much for the preamble to all of that. sadly, spoiler alert, at the end of season 3 of The Mandalorian, the Darksaber was destroyed. Will it be reforged again? I don't know, but it's sad because of all the lightsabers in Star Wars lore, the Darksaber is so unique, and it's definitely a wonderful piece of lore, and seems a shame that they destroyed it. But I understand why they did it, for story reasons, but it's just like an amazing design, and an amazing concept. Okay, so I have twirled this around enough times while I'm talking about, the history of this prop replica, my feelings about it, its role in the story, and all of that. Let's start looking at other things. I kind of forget how I haven't done one of these reviews in a while. I think after this, the next step normally is I push it off to the side a little bit. And then I think I work on the certificate of authenticity. So this is also one of the rare opportunities that I've actually had of actually opening up a brand new lightsaber. Again, I got into the game a little bit behind, and almost all of my acquisitions came from the secondary market. So it's kind of cool to finally have the ability to open one up brand new. So here's the nice EFX logo. I kind of like the movie strip X right here, a part of the X. That's a nice touch, movie collectibles. And then we're going to open this up. It's a 4 quadrant like gate, so to speak. So on the inside, we have a few things I'll show you. So of course, this is their return policy, unlimited warranty. We have this for every one of their products. I'm gonna put that aside for now. Whoa, don't wanna mess with my camera. And then this is the rice paper and the plastic sleeve that the signature additional plaque came in. So I kept that. And then this, of course, is the sleeve that holds all of it together. And this is the actual certificate of authenticity. So a few things that I like about it. Number one, the paper is very heavy stock paper. So it definitely feels like there's great quality involved. It's not like kind of flimsy or cheap. So it feels, it feels like they spent money on it. That's good. You can see the back. There's the date, all of the licensees, and then again the logo. And the front, Star Wars Darksaber Signature Edition, which is great. I guess it would be copying maybe Master Replicas a little bit too much to have it embossed in gold, but I've always loved that about the Master Replicas certificates of authenticity, at least the old ones with kind of like nice heavy stock paper and then the gold embossing. So let's open it up. Another cool thing is it actually shows you like pictures of the character. And again, this is a very high gloss, high quality. So here's Bo-Katan Kryze. Here's another one from the Mandalorian, I think season 3, yeah, the season 3, that shows her, receiving the Darksaber from Din Djarin, the Mandalorian himself. Again, this is a what I call a triptych, which means it's a 3-panel, opens out just like the Master Replicas versions. And then here, there's a little blurb about the Darksaber. You can easily read it. And so my memory did serve me. The name is Tar Vizsla, the first Mandalorian to be inducted into the Jedi Order. And you can read about a little bit about the history of this, which is nice. And then here is the actual certificate itself. So here is my first little bits of kind of constructive criticism. Number one, I think that this certificate of authenticity is a little bit shabby compared to the Master Replicas ones. The ones where there was like a gold seal, they actually had the signatures of like, the people responsible for Lucasfilms and licensing and collectibles. as well as master replicas like CEO or whatever. I mean, I think it adds, again, a touch of class to have these individuals who are not movie stars, but who are very important members of the collectibles companies, to have their signatures there. And here, it would be nice to have, for instance, the CEO of EFX or something have their name, as well as Lucasfilm Licensing have their name. I mean, these are not, again, famous people, but it adds a touch of class, and that's what Master Replicas did, previously. So number one, that's one thing. Number two, I would like you to read it. This certifies that the accompanying collectible is an authentic prop replica produced by EFX Inc. under official license from Lucasfilms Ltd. Okay, whatever, so far so good. This replica is an accurate reproduction of the original prop. The helmet was derived using production screen used assets provided by Lucasfilm. Each piece is manufactured from the highest quality materials and is assembled and finished by hand. So obviously you see that the helmet is a big problem. Master Replicas did this near the end of their life cycle, where they would just basically use generic print for their certificate of authenticity, compared to their initial offerings, which was beautifully specific. They would actually say, signature edition Carrie Fisher thermal detonator, or signature edition, Darth Vader, whatever. And again, these are little details that matter, that count. So here, EFX is so lazy that not only could they not be bothered to actually mention this by name, but they actually used, no doubt, their generic certificate of authenticity for one of their prop helmets, and they just put it here, which is, in my opinion, kind of a shame, because you're only making 100 of these guys. You're not making 1,500. I mean, Master Replicas in their heyday was making 4,000 or 5,000. At least they had an excuse. You're literally making only 100 of these. Couldn't you have spent a little bit more time and effort and money giving us a nicer certificate of authenticity? So again, while in general, I do like the quality and I'm happy with it, I have to, criticize that aspect, which is a very sort of, again, Bush League, almost, amateurish thing to do to make that mistake. Another thing is that, Katie Sackoff was there signing, and it's literally the work of a few seconds to take a picture of her signing. I'm sure she wouldn't mind. And again, it kind of harkens back to the Master Replicas days when they used to have a picture of the actor signing the piece. Excuse me. And I always loved that. And so again, it just seems like a missed opportunity to not have that, You could have replaced maybe one of these beautiful glossy photos with a picture of Katie Sackoff, let's say right here, signing, and then we would have kept this, and then everything else is kind of the same. In addition to that, rather than give us this simple little blurb about the Darksaber, Master Replicas used to also have another paragraph or two, often two paragraphs, talking about the formulation of the replica itself, which was, very much appreciated, a little bit of it behind the scenes. Now, I know that it sounds like I'm harping on Master Replicas constantly, kind of like, I don't know, like the stereotypical guy who's always going on about his ex-girlfriend to the current girlfriend, and it's maybe a little bit poor taste. But if we are going to try to anoint EFX as the heir apparent to Master Replicas, as we tried to do, I think a decade ago, and then they fell, right? They fell flat on their face. But if now I'm hoping that their CEO is, trying to, again, take up that mantle and try to fill that void. There's a lot of honor, in trying to do that for Master Replicas. There's no shame in trying to replicate them. They were an amazing company. Then we have to hold them to higher standards. And the blueprint was laid out by Master Replicas. They showed you the way. They showed you the class. They showed you the quality. And so I know it's harder. I know it's more expensive, but the bar has been set. If you want to be talked about in the same conversation, the same sentence as the Master Replicas, then EFX as a company, you have to step up and try to at least approach their attention to detail and their quality. And as far as the certificate of authenticity is concerned, I feel that there are some parts that are definitely lacking. Okay, so now I'm going to go real close so we can kind of check out the actual signature plaque. So unlike, again, master replicas, where the legs holding the lightsaber is embedded into the base, here, like all of their lightsabers, what they did was that they put the edition, or in this case, the signature edition, but they would put like their plaque describing the collectible, and they would incorporate it into the legs. And so essentially the stand serves dual functions, both to hold the plaque as well as to hold the acrylic legs on which the collectible sits. And then this entire stand can be moved around on the base. So I'm going to start by just simply sliding this thing out so that we can see it a little bit better. A few things. First of all, this is a bit dark in terms of the metal, and they have this sort of metal, brush to metal effect, which I think is quite nice. Here's the EFX logo on the side. It's from Star Wars Darksaber Signature Edition, very classy. Again, it might have been nice to try to put Mandalorian somewhere there, but I guess Star Wars is good enough. Depending on how the light reflects it, it's actually kind of hard to actually even see the print over here. You can clearly tell that this is Katie Sackoff. I got number 73 out of a worldwide edition of 100. And then here you can appreciate Ms. Sackoff's very large and bold signature. It looks like it was signed with silver paint. All very interesting choices. Perhaps black would have been a little bit better, but maybe they wanted a little bit more contrast. But if that's the case, I kind of feel almost like the brushed metal is not quite dark enough. But as you can see, Katie Sackoff's signature is so bold and so big, it's essentially going off of the plaque, which I find, kind of amusing. But there you go. I think this is a really nice, classy thing to do. It's metal. It's really, really good. I'm of two minds whether I prefer this type or the Master Replicas type, but I have no doubts about what I prefer as far as the stand itself. So a few quibbles about, again, this situation here, the stand. The first is because this is movable on the base, I promise you there's almost a 100% inevitability that you're going to have little tiny scratches on the sort of the acrylic here. This is sort of a brushed metal at the bottom. They have Star Wars, as you can see, on the lower right-hand corner. And it has the same little screws at the four corners where you can screw down the acrylic plating over the brushed metal surface. That's kind of their claim to fame. That's what they do. And it's a little bit late to be changing that up. But I'm not a huge fan of this. I mean, I think it looks classy. It's nice. It's a different look. I like the brushed metal look, but it just seems a little bit overly busy with the screws and then this little acrylic clear plate over the brushed metal. Again, part of my suspicion is that they just didn't want to invest in a mirror base. I still think a simple mirror base is the classier way of doing it. I don't think they wanted to deal with the returns. They didn't want to deal with the quality control issues. And so they, basically settled with this. And while it's certainly a nice looking alternative, again, if we want to compare to the class, of its league, then you have to go back again to Master Replicas, and I still feel like the mirror base is preferred. In Master Replicas bases, the acrylic leg is always set into the base. This, of course, leads to a lot of cracked mirror bases because while I admire Master Replicas very much, their quality control in the factory sometimes was just left a lot to be desired. And so because the leg is embedded into the base, oftentimes they would crack the mirror base if there was impact. In the very early Master Replicas, display bases, it wasn't inset into the mirror base, it was just simply glued there. And I actually prefer that because in that situation with impact, the entire leg would just be knocked right off. but it would basically be a clean break. You wouldn't have like, jagged edges or part of it just, being inset, and it would be very easy to just re-super glue it. But then later on, they didn't do that, and there was a lot more damage. So for here, not Master Replicas, but EFX decided to deal with it by essentially putting these legs with this little cinder block and shoving it in the back to create the legs of the lightsaber, the so-called holders. They've gone through multiple versions of this. First with the Darth Maul, the Darth Maul Legend, and then the Ahsoka Tano Director's Signature Edition, the Rey. Now with this is like a new way of trying to secure these legs. I can't say I'm a huge fan. You have to put quite a bit of force to shove this into position. There's 2 metallic springs on either end to prevent this from wobbling around. And you have to, shove pretty hard. And I had worries that, I would actually crack the acrylic, move it into position. I basically slid it in as hard as I could until this was flush with the metal stand. And then I stopped. I didn't want to make it go any deeper. And I think this is probably what they wanted you to do. Of course, you can adjust it as close or, as close as you want. But I feel like, this is probably where they wanted you to go. There's a bit more play in the Ahsoka Tano Dual Saber set from EFX, which I'll go into with that review. But I think for this one, it's pretty evident that you're supposed to stop here. I do like the clear acrylic. I think it's very classy. I just don't like the way this is implemented into the actual plaque stand. And I do worry that, this will crack, and I worry about actually trying to remove it if I ever wanted to box it up again, for instance. It would be a concern. I think there's a high risk of damaging this. You're also going to scratch it up pretty hard as you basically shove it in. So there is that. We talked about the fact that because this is, again, also acrylic and you're going to be moving this around, you can literally move it around, that you're going to scratch the base of this. Now, I suppose that those little tiny scratches can be buffed out, for instance, with plastic cleaner, but it's still a design flaw that's going to show up. Another problem with this, again, is that if you have a custom signature plaque made, then it's really, really difficult to display both. Now, I've seen workarounds where they've had people make a metallic plaque identical to what EFX uses, and you basically slide it halfway out and have two things sort of set here so you can see one versus the other. And that's actually a pretty neat solution. But again, it's not, in my opinion, not very aesthetically appealing when you have like basically half of the plaque on one side sticking out, the other half sticking out, and then they're meeting in the middle. Again, it's a reflection of the fact that they forced the legs into the plaque stand, whereas for master replicas, the legs are part of the base. And so if you have a custom plaque, you can just easily move it all around. As an example, for instance, I actually had a custom plaque made for the Mandalorian. So this is the master replica style signature plaque. As you can see, Katie Sackoff signed this thing personally. This is is it official pics, or I think this is an SWAU version. Let's take a look here. Yeah, I think it is SWAU. So you can see they have the number, and yeah, you can see the logo. So this is, witnessed. And I'm actually, in my opinion, I'm a little bit more partial to this style than the EFX style, okay? So you can see that she signed this with black ink, very bold, very nice. I have her name, signature edition, and I have the character's name and the Darksaber and also the show. So again, I think that this, gives you quite a bit more information, and I prefer it, in my own way. I was thinking about maybe selling this, but after having seen the EFX official signature plaque, I think that there's a role for this as well, and I might just keep it and display both, a double Katie Sackoff signature edition, so to speak. Okay. So now that I've talked about my criticisms regarding the base, and by the way, this is not new. I've always had just frustrations with the base setup. I don't like the fact that you can move this all over the place. I don't like the fact that, again, you can scratch it, and the fact that, again, the legs are forced into the plaque. It just makes things a lot more difficult to display custom stuff. These are all the same complaints I've had when I've done any review of EFX. I also, again, just really hate the idea that they're not willing to, package or give you an acrylic case. I don't know how much more cost this would add, but again, it's just not the same level of class as master replicas did in the day. Yes, there's going to be more damaged acrylic cases. You may have to deal with more returns, but it's just a nice thing because now every time I get one of these lightsaber displays, and I would guess anytime anybody gets anything from EFX, you have to think to yourself, well, how am I going to properly display it? It's open to the environment, it's open to the atmosphere, there's some risk if you have pets or young children. It just is basically screaming for a acrylic case, and now we are the ones who have to be responsible for it, and we have to have it custom fabricated. So I happen to be fortunate enough to be able to know someone local who can do it, but still a bit of a pain in the butt to have to go ahead and do this. And you have to measure it, and the case has to go around this. And honestly, it's never perfect because everything's a little bit different. It's a game of millimeters. I just wish we didn't have to deal with all of that. Could you just please give me the mirror base with the legs there, and give me the acrylic case, and then give me the ability at that point to move my custom plaques around and display multiple plaques. And as it stands, this display is actually quite a bit larger. It's a little bit longer and a little bit narrower than your typical master replicas ones, I believe. I do feel, again, like the overall weight and the dimensions of the size of it is very classy. I like it. But again, it's missing that mirror base. Okay, so we've talked about that. Now let's actually get to the Darksaber itself. So I'm going to just kind of gently lift it up. So more, sort of controversy regarding this piece. So the first thing that we heard about when it was initially announced was that this would supposedly be die cast. Okay, now die cast is like a 4-letter word in collecting circles for some of us. It denotes sort of a cheaper quality production. It brings to mind basically plastic cars like Hasbro or something like that, but it's definitely not associated with good quality. Now, EFX's rationale or justification is that was the original prop. Okay, that was how the original prop was made on the show, and they just wanted to be quote unquote as screen accurate as possible. Now, I know that there are some collectors who buy into that hook, line, and sinker, and there are multiple very, very sort of respected collectors who believe in it and who like it. I'm not one of those. I think that that's a lazy excuse by the company because oftentimes in the real world behind the scenes, props are really, really crappy. The props are not used in real life to be collected. They're there to get a job done, and with the increasing CGI and what's available with CGI and, for instance, AI, you can have very, very poor props that are then dressed up in post-production. And the goal of the prop is always to get the shot in, and then you move on. And so oftentimes, so-called real props are just horrible material, horrible quality. And master replicas understood that. And they explained that in their certificates of authenticity, where they would say, well, the original was made out of resin because of practicality purposes, because the actors didn't want to get hurt, because they didn't want to carry a heavy prop all day during filming. But in the interest of delivering the best quality possible, we're going to take some liberties and not give you that piece of crap resin, but give you like the actual idealized version of the prop. And we hope that you understand. And I much, much prefer that design philosophy than the lazy way of just giving you the little cheap prop and saying this is the most accurate or screen accurate, and so we're doing you a favor. So the reason I say that is because when the collectible is die cast, you can clearly here see this visible seam line, because that's where the casting occurs, and that's how it's basically put together. You can see it here, and you can see it clearly, here. You can see this line, right? The seam line. Now, it's a very small thing, and maybe most people wouldn't even notice it at all. But of course, for those of us who paid for this, those details do count. So I'm going to go on record saying I'm not a big fan of die casting these. The Dark Ray lightsaber wasn't die cast. Neither was the Luke Skywalker Mandalorian lightsaber. Now, of course, EFX is going to justify by saying, well, those props were die cast, but we've already beaten that dead horse. But I'm just going to say that they have the capability of making these without the seam line, without the die cast, and I hope that they do so in the future and take this perspective into account. And I say this because in actuality, the quality of this replica is amazing. When I picked it up, it's incredibly heavy. This is definitely as heavy as the finest specimens that Master Replica has ever made. So definitely, I do feel like the seam line was not a, in my opinion, not a cost-cutting strategy. But in fact, was there genuine, although in my opinion, misguided belief that this is really what should be done for, prop accuracy, all right? But the weight and the heft of this Darksaber clearly demonstrates that quality was foremost in their minds when they, had this produced. You can see sort of the beautiful finishes. So I'm gonna sort of give you this view right here from one of the end. So this ring does move. It's again all metal. You can kind of see the grip right here, alternating black and gunmetal gray. And then again, from this perspective, these seam lines are just so painful they kind of stand like a sore thumb because of the ribbing of the grip, okay? And as you move further up, this is the emitter of the Darksaber. So we're gonna have you take a look at what that looks like. So as you can see, if I go too close, it'll blur up. And if I try to adjust the camera so it doesn't blur, I think I lose the 4K. So in this case, I'm gonna just have to back up. So we're gonna pretend that you have bifocals on, and then hopefully from this angle, you can appreciate the detail here, okay? So this is the emitter, and they have this sort of very unique guard right here. This is just a really, really awesome looking, awesome design lightsaber. Take a look at some of the details on the side. You have the button here. This button actually can be pressed, so it's a functional button, which is, I think, really cute. You can see some of the detail here in terms of the knurling right over here. And you're supposed to, of course, hold it like this. Also, rather than a round emitter, which most lightsabers have, you can see that this is actually a more narrow oval. And so the blade that comes out is also narrower as well. So a lot to like about this. You won't be able to feel the heft as I do, but let me just tell you, when you lift it up, it definitely screams quality. So absolutely no complaints there. Now, one of the things that I didn't like about this saber is the fact that it is a signature edition, and nowhere could I find the signature edition actually engraved on the hilt. As you will recall, Master Replicas always had that, almost like 95% of the time, on the pommel of their lightsaber. And the reason for that then is it does create a distinction between the signature edition and the limited edition. Now, granted, the product was identical for both, but the fact that the signature edition was again engraved into those hilts means that you cannot very easily just mix and match them. And because EFX did not do it with this Darksaber, that means that in the future you absolutely can create situations where a limited edition Darksaber could be substituted for a signature edition. So again, I mean, come on, like a lot of EFX employees used to be from master replicas. There must be some knowledge of the history, right, of master replicas. I would think that some of the people or some of the higher ups in the administration of EFX own a few master replicas pieces, and you must know what they do with the signature edition. So why in the world would you choose to skip that step? Is it that much more expensive? I don't know, but this is again something that you should have done for again the fans who are supporting you, who are looking at you. Now, granted, maybe this was their first time maybe doing this, but still, from your history, you should have known how master replicas handle signature editions. But to be fair, this is the first one where they have both a limited edition and a signature edition. For the Ahsoka directors, that was it. That was the actual release. There was no version of one or the other. And for Ahsoka Tano, there was no signature version made available. So this is the first one where it got complicated. You have two different signature editions of this Darksaber, one signed by Katie Sackoff, the other signed by Giancarlo Esposito. And then you, of course, have the limited edition. But still, I feel like somewhere here they should have engraved a signature edition. Now, maybe they did, and I'm just blind and I couldn't see it. And if that's the case, I would welcome people letting me know where to find it. But I've looked pretty closely, and I'm pretty confident I didn't miss anything, that in fact was never done. Another thing I like to talk about is that sometimes companies use weathering as a, again, sort of sloppy way or lazy way of avoiding quality control, because of course if it's weathered, if it's chipped, if it's battle damaged, then it's much easier to hide factory deficits. And so one of the things that I like, now I get it, sometimes, especially in a universe like Star Wars, where everything sort of feels lived in and part of the I don't want to say shtick, but part of sort of what Star Wars is known for is sort of grounding, right, the fantastical and the science fiction in the real world almost. I get that, you want to have a little bit of that weathering and stuff like that. But most of the time, I still feel like companies use that just to basically get away with poor QC. And so another thing I wanted to remark about the Darksaber is that it's not really that weathered. Maybe there's certain little tiny details at the pommel or something like that where it's a little bit, but I looked at it over very carefully, and this is really a very pristine, beautifully glossy specimen. Maybe not quite, again, as nice as the 24 karat plated versions from episode 2 and 3 that Master Replicas put out. But still, this is definitely looks glossy and excellent quality without any type of dings or scratches. And then they just basically say, oh, it's battle damaged. So no, that hasn't been the case with the Darksaber. So I'm going to carefully put this back. And then we're going to line it up again. I'll take my custom plaque out of the way. Now I'm going to see if I can actually do this. It's a little bit tricky. I think I can, but I'm not sure. This is another reason why it's kind of difficult to put this thing in. There you go. I want to just kind of gently slide it back into position. So I have that. Make sure it's somewhat symmetrical. And then, for instance, I can put that in here. So you have a double whammy look of the two. Again, I just feel like when you look at the two signatures, that the one on the left in black is just stands out a lot more, right, than the one done in silver. It's almost like they chose a signature that's very similar to the background of the brushed metallic paint, or not the paint, but the brushed metal. And again, I think EFX, their inexperience is showing, where they made these odd design decisions. Again, from certain angles, it stands out fine, but once the light hits it, it just sort of, washes it out. And that's just such a self-induced error. There was no real need or call for it. They just kind of went ahead and made that mistake, So there you go. So my overall thoughts about the Darksaber. Well, first of all, I'm obviously ecstatic just to hold it in my hand. I'm super happy that EFX actually came through. A lot of amazing things. So number one, that EFX actually decided to even launch the project. Number two, that they didn't rip everyone off. They actually made it and delivered it. And then they also made a signature edition. This is like very, very rare in today's day and age. They actually put in the time and effort. Granted, only 100, and so they sold out like hotcakes. But still, they actually put in the effort to make, a full 100 of these, a signature edition that really sort of, brings the nostalgia back and warms my cold heart. That they're trying to go ahead and make the effort to do that. So I really appreciate that, and that they delivered it so well. The quality of the saber itself, as I hope you were able to appreciate from me handling it, from first turning it and then me sort of turning it every which way here and there. So even though the camera is in a fixed position and I couldn't zoom in or out, I wanted to keep this 4K, and so there's obviously the problem with the motion blur. But I think you can see again the quality of the construction of the fitting, and the weight of it, which you can't tell, is very, very reassuring. Okay, so definitely it feels like a high quality, near $1,000 prop replica. It does not feel like a cheap toy, which is very important. So my overall, takeaway is that it's just an incredible privilege to actually be able to own something like this. And I'm very, kind of excited about what the future may hold. And I hope that EFX does consider releasing more lightsabers, and not just from the recent Disney Plus shows like Ahsoka or The Acolyte, because I think those are more kind of throwaway, pieces that I don't think a lot of people are going to buy, to be honest with you. You need to give us the opportunity to own or to buy iconic hilts, right? And so like Ahsoka's dual lightsabers is a good example. Ezra Bridger's lightsaber, not so much, right? So I hope that they take that into account and they continue their ambitions. So very happy about that, and happy, of course, again, to own a real replica of the Darksaber that I watched, in Clone Wars animated form and Rebels animated form is amazing. In terms of their room for improvement, I think we've went over a lot of that. I don't like the base, in the sense that I like the quality of the base for what it is, and it's a nice idea. I still prefer the mirror base. I do not like the plaque being integrated into the legs, or vice versa. I don't like the legs being forced into the plaque. I don't like the fact that you can move this around, because it's really silly. You can't move it around that much if you want to put a case on it and you don't want to look stupid. Like you don't want it to be off center. So there, you put this here, and there really is only a few centimeters that you can move it anyway. So this whole concept to me is a bit ridiculous. So I don't like that. I don't like the fact that they don't give you an acrylic case. I will always complain about that. I do not like the fact that you can see the seam lines because of its die cast production. I think that you need to give us, if you're going to go all out, and by the weight, I can tell that you used the best metal materials. They don't cheap out and give us a resin copy like you did with the Darth Maul Legend version. So if you're going to go that far, then why not just go the extra mile and give us an idealized version without those ugly seam lines, because it takes you out of the moment of the prop replica of the prop replica. At that point, you don't feel like you have the Darksaber in your hand. You feel like you have a Darksaber toy almost, right? Or like a Darksaber that was created in a factory. So I think it destroys that illusion. And I, for one, like the illusion of the real thing versus, like, again, the prop. But that's, everyone's mileage may vary on that. So I don't like that. And I don't like the fact that you didn't distinguish the signature edition version by engraving it somewhere on the hilt itself. There's many areas you could have inconspicuously done it. If they did it for Mace Windu's, lightsaber, you could have done it for this. So hopefully in the future, they will keep that in mind. I doubt that they'll ever look at this video being an hour long, but I hope there's enough feedback that they will make things better. And again, it's completely ridiculous. Master Replicas did all of this over 10 years ago, just do what they did within reason. And I don't think that any of these things would have added that much more cost. And if it is, well, if you're crazy enough to be one of the 100 people to buy it, you sold out in 100, those people, including me, would have gladly paid an extra $100 or whatever to have those things done. So that's it, my summary of what I feel, and the areas, again, that I'm always harping on where EFX just falls a little bit short of the standards set by Master Replicas. This video is already an hour long. I got carried away with all of my rambling. This is the first, again, real review I've done in a long time. And I just got really excited by the fact that, this is finally a Darksaber collectible, worthy of the name. Happy with it and hoping for more, in the future. I don't know if we're ever going to get it, but let me tell you, for some of you guys trying to sell like a prop shop Kylo array, you might want to do that as soon as possible. The economy is changing, a lot of unknowns. I think the bubble is bursting for these types of collectibles, just like they did in the past. And if EFX puts out a Kylo Ren lightsaber, even announces a Kylo Ren lightsaber, that prop shop version is going to plummet in value. So if you're thinking about selling it, now might be the time to cash in, because you don't know what EFX is planning. And with the success of this signature edition Darksaber and how fast it's sold out, they may be tempted to do other versions. And again, Master Replicas already did all of the main ones from the prequel and original trilogy. So where else would they go but the sequel? And what lightsabers are in the sequel but the Kylo Ren and Rey versions, the Rey Skywalker versions. So in any case, I hope you enjoyed this super exhaustive review of EFX's signature edition Darksaber, signed by Katie Sackoff, playing Bo-Katan Kryze. There's another one, of course, signed by Moff Gideon's. It's portrayed by Giancarlo Esposito. I have that one as well, and that was a Facebook Master Replicas Facebook page exclusive, and we're going to review that. Although, again, the saber is exactly the same, so that will be a way shorter review than this. It'll be mainly there to look at the certificate authenticity and what changes there are. I'm expecting, for instance, Moff Gideon's photos to be there, as well as his signature and his plaque. So until then, thank you for going through this entire review with me, and do take care.